All right, we will bring the Senate Judiciary to order. Would the Secretary please call the roll?
Senator Harris, Senator Orenshaw, Senator Dondero Loop, Senator Nguyen, Senator Hansen, Senator Krasner, Senator Stone, Chair Scheibel.
Here. And Senator Nguyen is also present, so please mark everybody present. We have one bill hearing on our agenda for today. That is SB 174, and I will invite the presenters up to the table to begin their presentation whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and members of the Judiciary Committee. For the record, I am Scott Hammond, representing Senate District 18 in Clark County. I am pleased to present Senate Bill 174 for your consideration. To my left, I have Rocky Finseth. I was going to let you do it.
Thanks, Senator. For the record, Madam Chair, I'm Rocky Finseth with Career Nevada today here on behalf of Cameo. With us down south is Mr. Stephen Parker and Mr. Joel Just. They're with Cameo, and in addition, Azim Jessa from the Realtors. They will be part of the presentation today.
Again, Scott Hammond for the record, Senate District 18. What I want to do is just give a brief overview of the bill, and then I'll let Stephen down south give some background information on what they are seeing within the industry. Why the bill is needed, and how we are attempting to solve the issue at hand. This is a cleanup bill stemming from a 2015 legislation that I co-sponsored with then Senator Aaron Ford. The intent is to fix some unintended consequences that came out of this bill and ultimately provide consumer protections for homeowners. Existing law exempts a community manager from the requirement to be licensed as a collection agency if the community manager collects debts or contracts with a collection agency to collect debts included in the association's lien. This bill eliminates this exemption, and if a community manager wants to participate in the foreclosure process, they need to become a licensed collections company.
Madam Chair, Rocky Finseth for the record. If we could go down south and hear from Mr. Parker and Mr. Just.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can.
Stephen Parker for the record. I'm the president of Cameo and the president of First Service Residential here in Nevada. First Service Residential performs community management services and collections work in the state of Nevada. We support the proposed changes in Senate Bill 174 because we believe they're necessary to ensure that the consumer is protected throughout the entire collections process. The collections industry is heavily regulated by the state of Nevada as well as federal laws such as the Fair Debt Collections Protection Act, or FDCPA. The regulations governing collection companies are designed to protect consumers. When collection work is done outside of the purview of the laws and regulations, or done by those who don't understand those laws and regulations, the consumer almost always suffers. Collection companies that are collecting delinquent homeowner assessments are regulated by the state of Nevada and must comply with all federal laws such as FDCPA. They are required, amongst several things, to have a licensed qualified manager that is supporting their operation. Documentation that's sent to the homeowners must be approved by the Financial Institution Division, or FID, prior to being sent. And in addition, an annual audit is performed by every collection company to ensure that the activities being performed are in compliance with the regulation. And this audit is performed by the FID on an annual basis. Any issues with the regulations must be resolved for the collection company to be in good standing. The current language in SB and Senate Bill 174 allows a significant amount of collection work to be done by the community manager outside of that regulation. There's no qualified manager overseeing the work. Documentation is not approved by FID, and there is no audit conducted to ensure the regulations are being followed when the work is done by a community manager outside of a licensed collection company. There are several things that we're seeing in the industry that we believe are harmful to consumers that are happening when this work is done outside of a collection company. First, There's no oversight by the FID. Nothing to ensure that the work is done correctly and without harm to the consumer. Let me give you an example. Early in 2022, FDCPA changed some language required in the initial letter. The collection companies, because they live by FDCPA and the state regulation, all made those changes to that initial letter. We're seeing that most of those doing collections work outside of a collection company did not make those changes. They were not aware of those. These required changes will also not be caught by any audit, because these community managers are not required to be audited on an annual basis by FID. Second thing that we're seeing is collection companies are designed to collect. When community managers do that, it's kind of an aside from what they do. So let me give you an example. So when a file is sent to a collection company, the first thing that happens is we use some software that finds any and all known addresses. The reason that we do this is because there's a percentage of the accounts that come to a collection company that the address is incorrect because the homeowner failed to update their address, and so they're not receiving notices from the management company. When a collection company sends to any and all, we generally catch that, and the collection process is shortened, the cost to the consumer is shortened. That process isn't done by people who are an unlicensed community manager. They're simply sending it to the same addresses that they already have, which if the address is incorrect, they aren't going to collect it until it gets further down the collection process at more cost to the consumer. And finally, one of the major issues that we're seeing, which brought this bill to our attention, is when these steps are done by an unlicensed community manager to do collection work, and there's an error made, and the file is then transferred to a collection company to do the subsequent collection work, the process has to be started over if there's been an error made. So if there's an error made in the filing of the lien, the collection company has to refile the lien, and in that process, the homeowner is now billed twice for that lien. And so if you understand that process, you do it right, you're audited, and the damage to the homeowner is much less. For comparison, let me give you an example of a general contractor. We would never consider saying to our community managers, you can do the first couple steps of general contracting work, and then we'll turn that over to a licensed general contractor. We wouldn't do that for all the reasons that I just mentioned. Number one, it's not efficient. Number two, we don't know what we're doing when it comes to a general contractor's license. And number three, it creates liability for the homeowner and for that general contractor, which they can't assume, and so they start the process over. All is damaging to the consumer. Thank you for your time. We appreciate your consideration in these changes, which we believe will allow the collections effort to be much more efficient and protect the consumer from some of the things that are occurring today.
Madam Chair, Mr. Just. Down south.
Yes, thank you, committee. Joel Just for the record. I am a member of Cameo, and I run CAMCO, Complete Association Management Company in Southern Nevada. I'm in favor of SB 174 for the reasons that Stephen has stated. I won't restate them. People are licensed for a reason. So that the state ensures that people have the competence to do the work. In fact, most of the industry, these letters are not done by the community association manager. Most of them are done by a back office accounting person and mailed out without review of the community manager. So not only are they not regulated, they're not reviewed for competency by the FID. They're not reviewed by the manager that even it's being sent out by their licenses. So there's a reason people are licensed within their work, and I just think it's important that consumers, especially when you're clouding the title of a person's most valuable property, their home, it's done by somebody who knows what they're doing, keeps abreast of the law, and it, again, is reviewed by the state. Thank you.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, Samantha Sato for the record. That concludes our presentation, and we're available for any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Are there questions from members of the committee? Senator Stone.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation. And based on what I'm hearing, when the HOA is looking to recover fees, fines, it's kind of like the Wild West of collections, where they can only certainly go so far, and they can't actually take it to the next step, which is foreclosure, if they can't get the fees unless they hire an attorney to go through the same. And then the attorney's going to have to probably file a lot of the same paperwork that's already been filed against the consumer. So we do see duplicative fees against the person that has the fines with the HOA. So I think your legislation is common sense. But is there anything in this that would preclude a manager of an HOA from becoming licensed as a collection agency?
Madam Chair, through you to.
You can go direct.
Thanks. Not the first time I've done this. Senator Stone, Rocky Finseth for the record with Career Nevada. No, nobody's prohibited, right? It just if this legislation passes, if you want to, if you want to go down that road, you need to get licensed. Plain and simple.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, Vice Chair Harris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's a noble endeavor to try and provide some relief for these folks who are already in a pretty sticky situation. You owe money, you don't want to get charged any further, and I would just suggest maybe we'd help them a little bit more if we didn't allow HOAs to foreclose on them for lack of fees, period. But since that's not the bill that's in front of us, I will ask my actual question. And that is, any concern that people may not want to become community managers because now they potentially have this extra burden on top of them?
Madam Chair, Rocky Finseth. Senator Harris, if you wouldn't mind, go down south to Mr. Parker and Mr. Just.
Senator Harris, no, there isn't any concern of that. As Joel mentioned, most of that work being done is being done by someone in the accounting department, and the manager's not affected by this, whether they were doing it or not. And so we're not concerned that community managers will say, well, since I can't do collections, I don't want to become a community manager. Actually, it'll be just the opposite. There's less liability associated with that particular community manager if they're not doing the collections work than if they are.
Thank you. Actually, I was thinking about it the opposite way, right? As in, you would have been a community manager, but now you don't want to because you also have to go and get this additional collections requirement. But I think your answer is probably going to be the same. Thanks.
Senator Wynn.
And I apologize, you may have mentioned this. How will this have a monetary, it sounds like, will this save money to, by creating this extra person that can do this? Sorry, I'm having trouble struggling with my words today. Hopefully you can read my mind.
Senator Hammond, for the record, trying. I think I'm there. Yeah, it is. Look, this is, like I mentioned this earlier, this is a cleanup bill. This is a bill that Senator, at the time, Senator Ford and I worked on in 2015 together. We created that pathway. We did everything we were supposed to, what we didn't do was tie up this loop, and that is that we created a situation where a community manager could start the process. Somebody is charged a certain amount of money, a lot of money, and then they can only go so far, and then somebody else has to pick up and start the whole process again, charge the same amount again, and so it's duplicative, as was mentioned by Senator Stone, and so we're saving the consumer a lot of money here, and as a result, the manager also is going to be saved a headache because the only way that they would have to do this is if they became licensed themselves. So again, it's probably a really good consumer protection piece, and it saves money for the consumer.
Do you have any concerns that now that it's been consolidated into one position or one person that's able to do this instead of having to do it duplicate the process essentially, that people will start to charge more for something they were already doing anyway?
Rocky Fenseth for the record. Senator Nguyen, if I can go down south, I think I know the answer, but I think these gentlemen can articulate it much better than I.
Thank you.
Yes, hello. Joel Just for the record. The fees are set by the common interest community. The fees are the same no matter who does the work. You can't charge more. So it's fixed and set by NAC.
Hi, Stephen Parker for the record. I would add that this is actually going to tighten up the process of who's being charged what. For example, if a collection company were to charge outside of the current regulation, their annual audit would catch that. They would receive an unsatisfactory rating and have to correct that. If that would occur multiple times, they would have a tough time staying in business. If the current law stays in place and a community manager charges more than the regulation, there isn't anyone to catch that.
Thank you.
Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, Senator Scheibel. And Senator Hammond, thank you. Appreciate your work in 2015 with Senator Ford to try to clarify some of the ambiguities in the Uniform Common Interest Ownership Act in Nevada. The question is, if this passes, and maybe it's for either the gentleman down south, do you believe that any community managers or employees will actually try to seek this licensure, or do you think they will then go to collection agencies that already do this in terms of trying to get these fees?
I'll take this. Joel Just for the record. It just a community manager that gets the license as a licensed collections manager is not enough to pass. So you not only do you have to be a licensed collections manager, you have to have one where all the documents are reviewed, performed, created, where all of the monies are put into trust and dispersed from the trust. You have to be a licensed collections company as well. And that requires full background checks. It requires, you have to have financial stability. We're required to give our profit and loss every year. So it's more than just an individual manager that might want to become a licensed collections manager. You have to do, there's a great deal more in the process of becoming a licensed collections company and then having licensed collections managers overseeing every document and every dollar that's collected and every disbursement that's sent out.
Thank you, Mr. Just. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions from members of the committee? All right, not seeing any questions. Thank you for your presentation. We will move to testimony in support of SB 174. Anybody wishing to give testimony in person is invited to the table either in Carson City or in Las Vegas.
Madam Chair, Rocky Fenseth, for the record, if I could, in front of you is a letter of support from the Nevada Land Title Association. Mr. Dover, who participated in these conversations, was unable to make the meeting today, so they wanted to put on record that they do support the bill.
Perfect, thank you. And has that letter been emailed to the committee? Okay, then it should be available as an exhibit as well, and we'll make sure of that after the meeting. I don't see anybody else coming to the table in Carson City, so we'll go down to Las Vegas. Each person at the table will have 2 minutes to give your testimony, and you don't have to ask permission to start. You can just go one and then the next person, but make sure you turn on your microphone and tell us your name before you start. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman Committee. My name is Mike Randolph with Homeowner HOA Collections, LLC. I have been a licensed collection manager in the state of Nevada for 30 years and specializing in common interest community collections for the last 23 years. This piece of legislation we're talking about is to change something that's in NRS 116. However, if we go over and look at NRS 649, which is collection agency law, 649-020 describes what a collection agency is. And a collection agency, since 2007, through Assembly Bill 47, a collection agency includes a community manager while engaged in the management of a common interest community if the community manager or any employee, agent, or affiliate of the community manager performs or offers to perform any act associated with the foreclosure of a lien pursuant to 116(3)1162 to 68 inclusive. And it doesn't include any other managers that are not involved with it. So NRS 116 got changed in 2015 to allow managers to do unlicensed, unregulated addresses. Collection agencies, and the definition still believes that they should be licensed as a collection agency. Thank you very much.
Chair Scheibel, members of the committee, my name is Azim Jessa, and I'm here on behalf of Nevada Realtors. We first of all want to thank Senator Hammond for bringing this to the table. We are fully in support of SB 174. When a homeowner, unfortunately, is faced with foreclosure and the process starts with an unlicensed company, once it does get transferred over to a licensed company to continue the process, as was already mentioned, statute already dictates those fees, and unfortunately, those poor homeowners who are already in a tough situation are again charged a second time. So that's, we just want to make sure that our homeowners are in the best position as possible when they come out of foreclosure and can bounce back as quick as they can. And we want to again just reiterate that we are 100% in support of SB 174. Thank you very much.
Buenas tardes, miembros del comité. Me llamo Carmen Cauchi, C-A-R-M-E-N-C-A-U-C-H-I. Soy un residente de North Las Vegas, del Distrito 6 de la Asamblea y Distrito 4 del Senado. Soy jubilada. Hoy les pido que voten sí en el proyecto de ley 174, SB 174, para asegurar que nuestras comunidades sean protegidas contra las asociaciones de propietarios, que se pronuncia HOA. Hace 20 años compré el condominio donde vivo hoy, que tiene una asociación, que tenemos la asociación pagando, yo empecé pagando $20 mensuales. Hoy pagamos $275 al mes. Como una persona jubilada con sueldo fijo, me preocupa que no pueda seguir pagando eso. He buscado recursos y he hablado con mis vecinos con poco éxito. Tampoco hemos logrado una junta con la asociación para presentar las quejas de mis vecinos y yo. Lo que sí he escuchado son los abusos de muchas asociaciones. Por ejemplo, en mi vecindad, el falto de pago resulta una multa de $50 al mes. Me parece muy fácil que alguien se quede atrasada y pierda su casa. No tengo la opción de mudarme o vender mi condominio sin terminar en la calle. Les pido que pasen SB 174 para proteger a los nevadenses de prácticas que puedan tener un impacto profundo en su vida. Tener este proyecto de ley aprobado permitirá que las HOA sean categorizadas como agencias de colección y eso bajará el riesgo de que las personas pierdan sus hogares debido a las regulaciones actuales sobre las agencias de colección. Como esta ahorita, la gente es probablemente que pierda sus hogares debido a estas multas masivas de HOA. Gracias por su tiempo.
Hello, committee members. I will be translating from Ms. Carmen Cauchi, C-A-R-M-E-N-C-A-U-C-H-I. I am a resident of North Las Vegas, Assembly District 6, and Senate District 4, and I am retired. Today I am asking you to vote yes on House Bill 174, SB 174, to ensure that our communities are protected from HOAs. 20 years ago, I bought the condominium where I live today, which has an association. I started paying $20 a month. Today, we pay $270 a month. As a person with a fixed salary, I am concerned that I cannot continue to pay that. I have searched for resources and talked to my neighbors with little success, nor have we managed a meeting with the association to present the complaints of my neighbors and I. What I have heard are the abuses of the associations. For example, in my neighborhood, failure to pay results in a $50 fine. I find it very easy for someone to fall behind and lose their home. I don't have the option to move or sell my unfinished condo on the street. I ask that you pass SB 174 to protect Nevadans from practices that can have a profound impact on their lives. Having this bill passed will allow HOAs to be categorized as collection agencies, and that will lower the risk of people losing their homes due to the current collection agency regulations. As it stands right now, people are likely to lose their homes due to these massive fines from HOAs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And could we get your name too, for the record?
Yes, Shanzeh Aslam, ShanzehAslam.
Thank you. I can't tell if there are other, okay, there are other people in support. Perfect. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, members. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Tamara Favors, TAMAFAROS. For the record, I am the Housing Justice Organizer of Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada. I am also a resident of North Las Vegas, residing in Senate District 18 and Assembly District 13. I urge the community to pass the SB 174 to ensure the homeowners associations are regulated as the same as collection agencies because of their fees have similar impacts on people's lives as the debt collectors. I currently live in an HOA. Living in an HOA property, my family and I have been directly impacted by fees and fines, HOA excesses. Having been fined and billed for not having our backyard completed in a timely manner and not submitting pictures each week has found us being fined $1,000. You can see how quickly that adds up and making it impossible to stay up to date on other living expenses. Furthermore, we run the risk of losing our house. Being a homeowner is an accomplishment for my immediate family, and losing this home through fees and collections would devastate me and my family. Having this bill would allow HOAs to be categorized as collection agencies that would lessen the risk of people losing their homes due to current regulations on collection agencies. As it stands, currently people are likely to lose their homes from massive HOA fines. Some of these homeowners are the first in their family, like myself, to buy their home. Keeping people in their homes is part of our slogan, Home Means Nevada. I urge you to protect Nevadans from practices that would deeply impact our livelihoods and vote yes on SB 174. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Hello, respected members of the committee. It's me. For the record, I am here on behalf of my mother. My name is Shanzeh Aslam, ShanZeh Aslam, ASLAM, and my mother's name, Sasha Aslam, SASHA. ASLAM. My mother has spent most of her adult life living and working in Las Vegas, Nevada. After working hard for 12 years as a threader, shaping people's eyebrows and removing facial hair, a very manually tedious job, and a single mother putting myself and my two brothers through college, she was finally able to secure a mortgage of her very own home in 2017. Unfortunately, her joy was quickly followed by deep frustrations with the HOA governing our neighborhood. Despite a hefty $85 a month fee, the HOA provided no landscaping, a constantly closed clubhouse, a very dirty pool, and streets frequently littered with trash and broken vehicles. With little to nothing to show for what they do with our monthly dues and the lack of overall upkeep, you can imagine the deep frustration that she faced the numerous times we received threatening letters from the HOA to fines upwards of $100 for very small things like pebbles in our driveway. Even during quarantine months when my mother lost her business and had absolutely no income and couldn't get a hold of the unemployment office, the HOA was relentless in coming after us. We were told that the HOA fine can lead to a lien on our home leaving us on the street, and that's terrifying. HOAs act as relentlessly as collection agencies, and the consequences of their fines can deeply negatively impact a person's life and livelihood. Members of the board, I ask you to please regulate HOAs as collection agencies and pass this bill, SB 174. Thank you.
I don't see anybody else coming to the table. Nope, I do see somebody else coming to the table in Las Vegas. Sorry. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Tashika Lawson. Thank you.
Could you move a little bit closer to the microphone? We're having trouble hearing you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is this better?
Much better. Thank
Can
you.
you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi there. My name is Tashika Lawson. I am representing Tashelle Lawson. She's my older sister. She is unable to make it here. She is a small business owner. Just going to open my little book here so that I have something to keep me on track. I am here I basically wanted everybody to know that we live and work in the state of Nevada, the city of Las Vegas. I'm not quite sure what our district is for assembly. I think we're six. Not sure. We basically wanted to talk to you guys today about the problem that we're having with the homeowners associations. My sister is currently part of the Picole Ranch, which is a master plan community in the city of Las Vegas. And she currently has 2 homeowners associations that she pays. One's as a master plan community, one and then she has the inner community that she pays for as well. Problem we ran into, especially when we were going through the pandemic, is that there is no way for us to actually be able to deal with homeowners associations as people who live in this generation. I know that I personally check my mail maybe about once a month, and she does as well. Multiple notifications were sent in very plain envelopes, and she basically got into a position where she accumulated homeowners' fees that basically compounded on top of one another. So by the time she actually realized what was happening, it was in the thousands of dollars inside of her during the pandemic, where both of our businesses, when we were riding it out together, experienced severe hardship. And there was no real communication, even though she had actually provided her email address for her to be kept up to date on what was happening. This happens to be a problem, especially now where we're starting to see a lot of people who are coming out of the pandemic and are starting to recover. Things like this, which can be like your homeowners associations, can be filed as liens against your house, which can keep you from doing things like refinancing your house or being able to get equity out of your house, especially as a small business owner who may need that extra support.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you have reached 2 minutes, so you're going to need to wrap up, please.
Okay, so I didn't know that there was a limitation. I apologize. Well, I just want to basically say that we support this bill passing, mostly because of the fact that she did not get into this house thinking that the homeowners association could use small fees that can accumulate over time, using little bitty increments to take, which she has spent so long and worked so hard to be able to keep her house. That's all that I wanted to talk about today. We support this bill, and we really would like your help as a committee. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming to Grant Sawyer to testify. And if you could turn off the microphone before you leave. Thank you. It just causes feedback. And we are still in testimony in support of SB 174. I don't see anybody else coming to the table. If those of you in the room could help me out, if it looks like there's somebody in there, jump up and down, wave your hands. Okay. Then we are going to go to testimony in support of SB 174 on the phone, please.
Thank you, Chair. The lines are open and working. However, there are no callers to offer testimony at this time.
All right, then. We will go to testimony in opposition to SB 174. I don't see anybody coming to the table in Carson City. It looks like someone's coming to the table in Las Vegas, so go ahead whenever you're ready. Hit that button to turn on the microphone, give us your name, and you'll have 2 minutes to provide us with your testimony.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Jason Horn, Hoorn, And I am the owner and CEO of Taylor Association Management down here in Southern Nevada. We represent or take care of somewhere around 40,000 doors down here. I've also been in contact with 4 other community association management company owners, collectively representing somewhere in the neighborhood of 200,000 homes. My opposition to this bill is the language that we have currently is not broken. The statute is not broken, and it does not need to be reworded. In fact, the way that it's being proposed to be changed does not address any of the concerns that we've heard from some of the folks in this room today. They're worried about HOAs, abusing power, this, that, and the other. But the only part that's stricken out of the current statute is the community manager's ability to do this. It still allows for board members, completely uneducated, unqualified, volunteer individuals to perform the steps that a management company would, or even perhaps a collection agency would also perform at the same time. So the concerns about us getting it wrong or management companies getting it wrong, this, that, and the other, while it's a concern, the bill as proposed does not sufficiently even come close to protecting the consumer, because it still allows for unlicensed, unknowledgeable, unregulated individuals to perform these actions. Additionally, what we're talking about, these letters that are going out, these are all form-driven, directed content letters. There is no, again, in speaking with the other owners, and I know I can attest for myself, these letters have been reviewed by legal counsel. They have been vetted. It's not something we just conjured up out of Word and said, let's send it.
And you have reached 2
These are
minutes.
letters that follow. I apologize.
That's
Thank you
okay.
very much. I am
Thank you.
deeply opposed to this bill.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anybody else in Las Vegas wishing to give testimony in opposition to SB 174? Not seeing anybody else coming to the table, we will go to the phone for opposition. Oh, I'm sorry. There is somebody. Yes, go ahead. Have a seat.
Hi, my name is Linda Gallup, and I work for a community management company. I'm a controller. I'm the grunt. My departments are the grunts that send out the letters. I'm opposed because one of the reasons exactly why the gentleman before me said, it still does allow for other people to do that. I do need clarification, or just want to mention that it's my understanding that part of the collection process starts with a 60-day notice that we send out on behalf of the association. Yes, we charge a fee, but the collection agency, if they started at that point as well, they would charge a fee to the homeowner. So there would be no savings to the homeowners because it's a collection process. So I'm opposed, depending on at what point. With the wording, I'm opposed with the wording right now because it doesn't clarify as to at what point in the collection process. Does it start at the beginning, the very first notice that goes out, where if the community manager sends it out, we have the ability to communicate with the homeowner. Oftentimes, the board will waive fees. We can we can catch and hopefully eliminate the process from going further, which at 90 days would be an intent to lien. Our company currently sends out the 60-day notice and the intent to lien notice. After that, when it goes to lien, we send it to a collection agency. So I just want to go on record of saying that at every stage there is a fee, whether the community manager on behalf of the association charges the fee for the letter, or whether or not the collection agency, if the collection agency sends out an intent to lien notice, if that's where it starts, they would charge a fee as well. So again, there would be no savings to the homeowner.
And that's 2 minutes.
So again, I'm opposed. Just to finish up, again, I think there just needs to be clarification at what where does that process start that would require a licensed collection agency?
All
So,
right. Thank you for
again,
your
I believe
testimony.
the fees will be there regardless of who does it.
Hi, my name is Mandy Endelman. I'm also with a management company here locally. I'm not necessarily opposed to this this new legislation. However, I do have many questions. My concern is if you're a homeowner and you pay $40 a month, are we as a management company not allowed to send a notice that says, hey guys, you missed your first month, you know, you owe $40. Am I supposed to send it directly to a collection agency at the point to try and collect a $40 fee? In the second month, again, they owe $80. Am I supposed to send them directly to collections and have a collection company send them a notice that they owe $80? If they owe $120, that's when we normally would send out a letter saying, hey guys, are you in trouble? Do you need a payment plan? That would incur a fee because we do have to have some type of punitive acceleration to get their attention. And so that notice at that point, when we offer a payment plan, again, can we send that to the homeowners? Or does that, again, necessitate a collection company to send our homeowner a letter for a $120 fee? So to me, either way, someone's going to be notifying them. I do work with many homeowners and board members closely. I like the ability to be able to work with my homeowners and say, hey, we can work with you. I see the situation that happened, and reverse those fees and have them not be liened or at a collection company incurring much larger fees. So there is an advantage to staying with the management company in some of these pre-steps before it gets to intent lien or lien. Even we don't process any liens in our office, but we would like some clarification on where that foreclosure process starts, and still give the homeowners some protections to be able to clear it up before they get a nasty letter from collection company. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anybody else in Las Vegas to give opposition testimony to SB 174? Doesn't look like it, so we are going to go to the phone line for opposition testimony to SB 174.
Thank you, Chair. The lines are open and working. However, there are no callers to offer opposition testimony to SB 174 at this time.
All right, thank you. Then we will move to neutral testimony. Is there anybody in Carson City wishing to give neutral testimony? Not seeing anybody in Carson, we will go to Las Vegas for neutral testimony on SB 174. You can go ahead in Las Vegas with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Sharat Chandra, Administrator for the Real Estate Division. We're in neutral, just happy to answer any questions if the committee has any. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? There is a question from Senator Krasner.
Thank you, Chair Scheibel. Thank you, sir. The woman that just testified on the record in opposition and said that she had a concern that a management company would no longer be able to send the notice of being $50 late because somebody missed a payment, the homeowner missed a payment. And so this would actually force them to send it to a collection agency, which would be worse for the homeowner, and it might negatively affect their credit also on top of it. Is that true?
I'm not sure if that's a question that he can answer, if that's a question for the sponsors of the bill. I'll give you the opportunity if you want to respond, but you don't have to.
Sharat Chandra, Administrator for the Real Estate Division. I'll let the sponsor answer it, and then I can add some clarification if there's any further questions.
Perfect. Any other questions from members of the committee? All right, I'm not seeing any. Anybody else? I'll ask you, Mr. Chandra, to stay there in case there are questions later. Is there anybody else that would give neutral testimony in Las Vegas? Doesn't look like there's anybody else to testify in Las Vegas, so we will go to the phone lines for neutral testimony.
Thank you, Chair. The lines are open and working. However, there are no callers to offer neutral testimony to SB 174 at this time.
All right, then that concludes testimony on SB 174. I'll invite the bill sponsor back for any closing remarks and to answer the question that was still pending.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Hammond, for the record, and I appreciate all those who testified today, both in support and opposition. We do have Mr. Stephen Parker down below. I think there was about 3 or 4 questions that were brought, and I think that he would like to address those if possible, and then close out the testimony.
Perfect.
Hi, Stephen Parker for the record. I'm not sure that I got all 3 or 4 questions, but I'll address the ones that I heard. One of the questions was relating to the collections process and what had to go to a collection company and what didn't. Just to clarify, there is a collections process that occurs prior to being sent to a collection company where that process is then regulated by the state of Nevada, where there's a letter sent, it's regulated, a lien placed, it's regulated, and so on. The collection efforts prior to that vary depending on the association. Some send 2 notices, some send 1. We have many associations that make a phone call to the homeowner that says, hey, you're a little late here. Is there something that we can do to help you? Did you know that? So those efforts are taking place in what we call prior to the official collection process. There is also, one of the other questions was what has to be turned over to a collection company? And the answer is whatever is an official collection process. So for example, the first process of that is an intent to lien letter. A pre-collection letter is just that. That was brought up. That is not required to be done by a collection company. It was part of some legislation a number of years ago that allowed notice to go to the homeowner that they were behind, and then a number of documents associated with that to try and prevent them from going to collections. For example, what the fees were if they were to go to collections, so hopefully they could work something out. The opportunity to get on a payment plan if they wanted. So there were a number of documents associated with this pre-collection process that, as I said, were designed to prevent it from going to collections. That's not part of the legal collection process as it relates to a foreclosure. And so that part would still stay with the management company and be done by the management company. Whereas once it becomes the process to originate a foreclosure of that loan, that would need to be done, according to the bill language, by a licensed collection company, by the proposed bill language. I think that answered 3 of those questions. Is there another one that I missed?
If I might. Again, Senator Hammond for the record. Yeah, the last question that I heard, I think by 2 different folks down south, was about who is able to actually send out a letter. If it's not the property manager, would it be somebody else on the board? And I think we addressed that in Section 1, Subsection 6. Where it talks about notwithstanding. So, Stephen, if you have an answer to that, because I believe when we talk about who is an officer, that we include board members in that definition of an officer. But if you could clarify that, that would be great.
Yes, Stephen Parker for the record. So there's a number of descriptions about what can be done in an HOA, and a board member is usually allowed to perform those activities. In practice, none of them ever do that. I'm unaware, and we manage almost 1,500 different board members, of any board member that's performing a collection activity. And so as a practice, a board member isn't going to pick that up. And to address the cost of, it's going to cost more. As I mentioned earlier in my testimony, one of the things that a collection company does is collect. That makes them more efficient at that. The fact that they send to any and all is actually a cost savings to the homeowner because we catch those homeowners where the address wasn't correct. So there was some comment that it would cost more, and I don't agree with that. It's actually going to cost less if the legal collection process is done by a collection company. What happens prior to that is done by a management company and is within the laws of the regulation that it can be done.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate your time and members of the committee.
And did that answer your question? Did it bring up any new questions? Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, with your indulgence. And I'm not sure if my question is for Senator Hammond or for either of the witnesses down south. The concern that was expressed in opposition testimony that if this passes into law, that there might still be, let's say, board members who would be acting like a collection agency. Could either of the witnesses down south comment on that, or does this plug up all the holes where there might be someone acting as a collection agency who's really not subject to the laws? Because that worried me a little bit. I just wondered if either could comment. If not, I could catch offline with Senator Hammond too. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Joel Just for the record. Thank you, committee. Fair Debt Collections Practices Act, which is federal, allows a debtor to collect their own debt. That's why a board member can knock on the neighbor's door and say, "Hey, Bob, you owe some money. Is there something we can do to help you out?" So any person that owns the debt has the ability to try and collect that debt. The problem is where you become afoul of the federal laws, where you hire a third party to collect a debt. Third parties collecting a debt are governed by the FDCPA. So that's why when you call a collection agency, the first thing you hear is this is a collection agency. All information will be used to collect a debt. There's phrases and specific language that have to be included in the documents to make sure you don't run afoul of the FDCPA. I can guarantee you if you call a third-party management company that's collecting a debt, they are not going to give that warning to the homeowner. They are not going to tell them they have the right of dispute. They're going to answer the phone. This is, in my office, this is Camco. They don't act as a collection agency. The problem you've got is you've got third parties collecting a debt which are not authorized or knowledgeable to collect the debt.
Thank you, Mr. Just. Thank you, Chair.
You've inspired another question from Senator Hansen.
Oh, yeah, don't leave the table yet. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the people that came in opposition asked a good question. Why, if you're going to get rid of the community manager, why are you still keeping a member of the executive board or an officer, employee, or unit owner of the association? Why would they be exempt from the new law?
Because, Joel Just for the record, because the federal law allows the debtor, somebody who's owed the money, to collect their own debt.
Okay, so I see.
When you hire a third party, then you become afoul of the federal language, which is like, if somebody owes me $100, I can go to his office and say, "Hey, Bob, you owe me $100." A collections company can't do that. They can't reach you at your office. They can't leave you a message. They can't, they can't walk on your property and bang on your door. They can't bother you at certain times of the night.
So the community manager, though, they would fall outside the scope of the federal law? That's why you're...
I think, yeah, so there is a little gray area, and I've had some discussion with the attorneys. So if you're a community manager hired directly, an employee of the HOA, then the HOA is taking that action. There is an argument that they might be able to collect it. But again, you run afoul of the federal law when you hire a third party. And every one of the people in here that has testified either for or against are a third party collecting a debt. That's when you run afoul of the law.
Okay, I think that clarifies it, but might have to talk to the bill's sponsor later. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for your participation, for asking questions, and for sticking with us to answer those and address concerns. We appreciate everybody's participation in this process. And that brings us to the conclusion of the hearing on SB 174. I will now close the hearing. We do have a BDR to introduce today. And as a reminder, this is we're not talking about whether or not we're going to pass a bill today. We are discussing whether or not we want to vote to move and vote to introduce this particular BDR. The purpose of the BDR is to clarify something in the pretrial release statute. The particular clarification of BDR 14-310 is to say that a pretrial release hearing, which is required within 48 hours, can be continued for one of two reasons. Number one, for good cause, which is an overarching concept of criminal law that would apply in this context just like any other hearing. And the second way or reason it can be continued is by stipulation of the parties. So I would accept a motion to introduce this BDR.
I'd so move.
All right, we have a motion from Senator Nguyen. We have a second from Senator Stone. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, with that, the motion passes to introduce BDR 14-310. And brings us to the last item on our agenda, which is public comment. Is there anybody wishing to give public comment in person in Carson City or Las Vegas? If so, come to the table now. Not seeing anybody coming to either table, we will go to the phone lines for public comment. Anybody wishing to give public comment will have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Scheibel. The public lines are open and working. However, there are no callers to offer public comment at this time.
All right, then. That brings us to the conclusion of our meeting today. We will be back again tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, we are adjourned.